The story opened with a high-speed car chase. A man named David relentlessly pursued a young woman named Grace. From his behavior, it was clear he was intoxicated, and while driving, he even snorted cocaine without hesitation. After chasing her for a while, David suddenly stopped his truck and fired a shotgun at Grace. The blast caused her car to lose control and crash off the side of the road. This was where everything already felt wrong. Grace wasn't seriously injured and quickly managed to get out of the wreck. David tried to ram her with his truck, but she barely escaped and ran for her life. After wandering for quite some time, she finally reached a farmhouse owned by Frederick and Genevieve, desperately asking them for help. But what she didn't know was that this place wouldn't make her safe for long. The story then jumped forward in time. Grace was now hiding inside a freezer, trying to escape David, who was roaming through the house with a gun, searching for her. It felt like he had a deeply personal vendetta against her and wouldn't stop until she was dead. And this was the moment it became clear. This wasn't just a random chase. As David moved through the house, he passed by a dead body but didn't pay any attention to it, completely focused on finding Grace. After searching for a long time without success, he stepped outside into the garden to smoke a cigarette. That's when he noticed a piece of frozen meat lying out in the open. The moment he saw it, something clicked. He immediately realized Grace must be hiding inside the freezer. He walked over and fired his gun without even checking. The bullet struck Grace in the shoulder, and she screamed in pain. Moments later, David knocked her unconscious with a punch. The story then shifted back to an earlier time. Grace was sitting in David's car, and the two of them were high, talking about intimacy and attraction. From the conversation, it was clear that David wanted to sleep with her and kept insisting they go to a hotel. Grace, however, made her boundaries clear. She said she didn't want to be forced into anything physical and would only do things on her own terms. For her, safety came first. She explained that in a private setting, there would be no one around to help if something went wrong, and she couldn't fully trust what he might do. Her hesitation showed she was unsure about spending the night with him. She told him that for women, safety mattered more than anything and that she needed reassurance he wouldn't harm her afterward. Hearing this, David fell into deep thought, unsure how to prove he was a decent person. Grace continued, saying she feared violence far more than casual intimacy. She admitted that while she saw him as a good person, the world was too cruel to trust anyone blindly. Then she asked him directly if he was a serial killer. That question hit harder than anything else. David froze for a moment, as if it came too close to something hidden. Then he smiled and denied it. Grace seemed convinced, but then revealed something unexpected. She wanted him to roleplay as a serial killer during an intense encounter, someone who wouldn't stop even if she resisted. This was where things started to take a darker turn. David agreed, but Grace introduced a safe word, a signal that would immediately stop everything if she felt uncomfortable. In the next scene, they were in a room together. David had handcuffed her and was choking her as part of the act. Grace was clearly struggling, but she encouraged him to go harder. David followed through, but suddenly she told him to stop. He immediately let go, though it was obvious he didn't like stopping. Something about this felt off. David was confused about what she actually wanted, since the entire setup had been her idea. After some time, things shifted into a more romantic tone, and they were about to be intimate, but once again, Grace stopped him. This time, David became frustrated. He handcuffed her again and started forcing himself on her, no longer acting. And this was where everything changed. His behavior turned genuinely threatening, like the very thing she had feared. Grace was terrified and in pain, crying and begging him to stop, but he ignored her and continued. When he still didn't stop despite her repeated pleas, she panicked and finally used the safe word they had agreed on. For a moment, it seemed like he might not listen. But then, he stopped. He released her immediately. And just like that, everything shifted again. As soon as the handcuffs came off, Grace suddenly started laughing. David was shocked, unable to understand how she could go from crying to laughing so quickly. She told him she had actually been enjoying it and was only pretending to cry. She had stopped him because she didn't want it to end so soon. That was the moment something truly unsettling surfaced. As Grace continued speaking to him in a playful and affectionate tone, something suddenly shifted in her demeanor. Her expression changed, and she began looking at David with an intensity that didn't feel normal anymore. And this was the moment the story quietly hinted. Something was seriously wrong with her. Before anything more could unfold, the scene cut to Frederick and Genevieve, sitting together in their isolated home deep in the woods, quietly having dinner. It was the same house where Grace had run for help at the beginning of the story, and soon, that peaceful place was about to turn into something far more dangerous. The story continued as Grace reached the farmhouse, desperately trying to escape David. As soon as Frederick and Genevieve opened the gate, Grace begged them for help and then collapsed unconscious. At first, it looked like she had finally found safety, but that feeling didn't last long. After some time, Grace regained consciousness and told them about David, explaining that he was trying to kill her. She had been shot near her ear and was in severe pain, so Genevieve went upstairs to get painkillers while Frederick called the police. Grace immediately tried to stop him, but he ignored her and assured her the police would help. But this was where something didn't feel right, because Grace wasn't afraid of David anymore. She was afraid of the police. In the next moment, everything changed. Without warning, Grace snapped and stabbed Frederick, leaving him badly wounded on the spot. When Genevieve returned, she found him bleeding, and this was the moment the truth started to reveal itself. Grace was not the helpless victim she appeared to be. She was something far more dangerous. Genevieve was terrified but understood that running would only get her killed, so she stayed still. Grace calmly apologized, saying she didn't want to hurt Frederick but had no choice because he called the police, and then demanded to be taken somewhere she could keep Genevieve restrained without causing trouble. Genevieve quietly led her toward the garage, waiting for the right moment, and when that moment came, she ran into the forest to save herself. Grace considered chasing her, but suddenly she spotted David approaching with a shotgun, and just like that, the danger returned. Grace rushed back inside, searching for a place to hide, but nothing worked, so she came up with a quick plan. Throwing frozen meat into the garden as a distraction, putting on a leather jacket, unplugging the freezer, and hiding inside it. She also kept pepper spray with her, preparing for the moment David might find her. The story then shifted back to an earlier moment in the hotel room, and this was where everything finally started to make sense. By now, it was clear Grace was far from innocent as she offered David what looked like cocaine. He hesitated at first, but she convinced him, saying it would make things better, and eventually he gave in even though something about her felt off. Grace took some first and then handed it to him, but what he didn't realize was that it wasn't cocaine, it was ketamine, a fast-acting anesthetic, and this was the moment David made a mistake he couldn't undo. They started kissing, but suddenly Grace pushed him away, and already frustrated, David decided to leave. Meanwhile, Grace went into the bathroom, slapped herself to control the drug's effect, then grabbed a knife and a taser from her bag and came back out. By now, the ketamine had taken full effect, and David collapsed in the hallway. Grace dragged him back into the room, stripped him, and placed him on the bed before revealing the truth that she had drugged him on purpose. She claimed she didn't want things to go this far, but then stuffed his sock into his mouth, turned on music, and calmly began carving into his chest for a long time, as if it meant nothing. Later, Grace went through his belongings in the bathroom, threw his phone into the toilet, and took his money. But then she found something unexpected, a law enforcement badge. And this was the moment everything flipped. Grace realized David was a police officer, and now she knew if she let him live, he would come after her no matter what. So she decided to kill him and walked toward him with a knife, ready to end it. But at the last second, David managed to fire his pistol. Because of the drugs, his aim was off, and the bullet struck Grace near her ear, leaving her shocked and panicked. David tried to shoot again, but he missed, and this was the moment Grace got her chance. She ran to the balcony and jumped down, escaping into the street before reaching a nearby market and entering a hotel to ask for help. She knew exactly how to use her condition to her advantage, and the receptionist immediately helped her unlock the door. But the moment the receptionist mentioned calling the police, Grace attacked and stabbed her instantly. A nurse nearby tried to call for help, but Grace stopped her, threatened her, and forced her to hand over her car keys and clothes. Grace didn't waste a second and drove away, while on the other side, David forced himself up and inhaled cocaine to counter the ketamine's effects so he could go after her. And now, the truth was impossible to ignore. Grace wasn't running from a monster. She was the monster. The story then returned to the farmhouse in the present, where David had already shot Grace in the freezer and left her unconscious. He sat there thinking, realizing he had no proof, was under the influence, and could easily lose everything. This was the moment David realized the truth. He wasn't just chasing someone anymore. He was trapped in something much bigger, so he called Sheriff Pitt and admitted he was in serious trouble. In the next scene, David walked over to Grace, who had just regained consciousness. He told her that he had expected her to escape, but in the end, he caught her, and now there was no way she was getting out alive. Grace responded with an eerie calmness. She said she didn't understand how she was still alive after everything she had done to him. Then she suggested that maybe he had fallen in love with her and couldn't bring himself to kill her. The tension between them felt different now, almost like a final confrontation. David ignored her remark and focused on what truly mattered. He pointed out that the way she had drugged him with ketamine, used a taser, and carved into his chest wasn't random. It matched a pattern, and this was the moment everything finally clicked. Grace wasn't the victim. She was the killer everyone had been hunting. The infamous Electric Lady. Grace didn't confirm it directly, but she didn't deny it either. The truth was clear. She had murdered multiple people and left behind her signature mark every time. David now knew exactly who he was dealing with. As he waited for his partner to arrive, Grace started playing mind games again. She told him he was in serious trouble and wouldn't be able to prove his innocence. Then she suggested he should just kill her. Her words confused him, and in that brief moment of hesitation, everything went wrong. Grace quickly pulled out the pepper spray she had been hiding and sprayed it directly into his face. Blinded and already weakened by drugs, David stumbled forward, and what happened next was even worse. Grace lunged at him and bit deep into his neck, tearing open a major artery. Blood poured out instantly. Before David could react or fight back, it was already over. He collapsed to the ground, and within moments, he died. Grace wasted no time. She dragged his body closer and took his pistol. Hearing approaching vehicles, she immediately switched roles. She removed part of her clothing and began crying, staging herself as the victim. Within minutes, Sheriff Pitt and Officer Gale arrived. Gale rushed to help Grace, seeing her as a traumatized survivor, while Pitt examined David's body and instantly sensed something was off. He warned Gale not to interfere and insisted they wait for the forensic team. But Gale saw it differently. To her, it looked like a clear case of self-defense. She believed David had tried to assault Grace, and Grace had killed him to survive. Ignoring Pitt's warnings, she removed Grace's handcuffs. Grace continued her act, crying and blaming David, carefully manipulating the situation. But Pitt wasn't convinced. He insisted they didn't yet know the truth and that helping her right now could be a mistake. Gale, frustrated, argued that Grace needed immediate medical attention. Despite Pitt's repeated warnings, Gale refused to listen, and this was the moment everything spiraled out of control. They decided to take Grace to the hospital. On the way, they saw Genevieve running out of the forest, begging for help. Just as she began explaining what had happened, Grace suddenly pulled out the gun and shot her in the head. In an instant, Grace turned the weapon on Pitt, taking full control of the situation. This was exactly what Pitt had feared. Grace then disarmed both officers and revealed the truth without hesitation. She was the Electric Lady. Hearing this, Gale was completely shaken. Grace forced Gale out of the car and made her run into the forest, then ordered Pitt to keep driving. Pitt had no choice. He was trapped. After driving for a while, they stopped in an isolated area. Pitt, trying to understand, asked her if she really was the Electric Lady and why she had killed so many innocent people. He asked what she gained from it and whether she planned to kill him too. Grace gave a chilling answer. She said that sometimes she saw demons in people, even when they looked human. Pitt dismissed her as unstable and looked away, but in the very next moment, she claimed she saw a demon in him as well. And just like that, she killed him too. In the final sequence, Grace walked onto the road and saw a car approaching. She immediately pretended to be injured, using the same tactic that had worked before. As the car stopped, she collapsed and begged for help. A woman stepped out, concerned, and helped her into the vehicle, offering to take her to the hospital. As they drove, Grace looked into the side mirror and saw something disturbing within herself. A reflection that felt darker than before. She smiled, slowly reaching for her gun, preparing to strike again. But this time, things didn't go her way. The driver had already sensed something was wrong. The moment she saw the weapon, she reacted instantly and shot Grace first. Grace was caught off guard, unable to fight back. The woman quickly took the gun away and called the police, reporting everything. She didn't want Grace to die, so she still tried to get her to the hospital, but it was too late. Grace, the Electric Lady, died from her injuries. And in the end, the predator who hunted others became the one who couldn't escape. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more mind-blowing movie breakdowns like this.